Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Steve Chilcott, and welcome to the first of a series of podcasts. And in these, we're going to be discussing politics, current affairs, and hopefully lots more subjects. And our first one this evening, I'm really happy to invite and welcome Feiwu Ling. Hi, Feiwu.
Hi, Steve. Hello,
Hi.
everyone.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Feiwu, and I'm originally from China, and I have been living in London, UK for 17 years. And I'm the founder of Direct Democracy for Humanity, because I believe direct democracy is the next evolutionary phase of democracy.
Cool. So, for those people that maybe haven't heard of it before, explain to us exactly what is direct democracy.
Direct democracy is we, the people, the public, the citizens make decisions on laws, regulations, and policies. It contrasts with what we currently have, which is representative democracy, where we elect politicians to make decisions on laws, regulations, and policies that affect all of our lives.
So, why do you personally think direct democracy is the way forward? Why do you think it's more beneficial than our current system?
Because under the current system, the people are the taxpayers, the breadwinners, but we don't have control over how our money is spent and how our affairs are governed. And it's the politicians who are not the breadwinners, not the taxpayers who decide on how our money is spent, how we should live our lives. Let's say in your family, if you are the breadwinner and the finances and the affairs are controlled by someone else who's not the breadwinner, do you think who's going to be more cautious with spending your hard-earned money? Surely yourself.
Yep, without doubt.
Yeah.
So, there are forms currently, aren't there, around the world where direct democracy is actually being used. So, can you tell us some of those areas that are currently using it?
Switzerland is known for direct democracy, and their political system is considered to be the best in the world because it gives Swiss people more power and control over how their money has been spent and how their lives have been governed, how laws and regulations are made, and as a result, much lower taxes for Swiss people and much higher public services for Swiss people. Basically, you cut off the middleman, the management agents. It increases accountability, transparency, sense of responsibility of everyone involved. And so Swiss society is a much more civilized and advanced society as a result. And also, there are other parts of the world, such as London, sorry.
No, yeah, unfortunately not.
I hope so. Taiwan has incorporated certain elements of direct democracy. Taiwan is a fairly young democratic country, it has only started democracy in the 90s, so they are still navigating democracy, and they have incorporated certain elements of direct democracy. And some states in America, such as California, has also done that. And there are a couple of other countries, such as Uruguay.
And historically, has it happened in the past?
Yeah, in ancient Athens, that the foundation of where democratic civilization or Western civilization or democracy started. They actually, started direct democracy as well.
Okay. And I guess in the UK we have had some instances, be them just sort of specific limited instances. And I guess the most recent is the EU referendum, so the vote of whether we stay in or leave the EU, Brexit, which was in 2016. And then also those old enough to remember, in 1975, there was also a referendum on whether we stay and remain in the what was called the European Common Market at the time, and the result of that was yes. And then in between, actually, the third and other sort of moment of direct democracy was a referendum around our voting system, interestingly. So it wasn't about moving away from representational democracy, but it was looking at a more proportional system of alternative vote. And the outcome of that was actually no. So what have those states and those nations around the world that have sort of put their toe in the water of direct democracy, what have they learned? What has changed? What have been the benefits to them?
Enhanced transparency, accountability, and sense of responsibility from the government, and more happier and satisfied people. And because people feel they have more control.
Do you think there are some areas of government or of legislation that direct democracy shouldn't be applied to? So I'm thinking, something like national defence, which might be cited by some as not an appropriate thing to be covered.
Well, I can't think of any, because politicians are the people too. If they can make decisions, then any decisions politicians can make should also be able to be made by the ordinary citizens, the public. I believe actually the public, the average citizens, make more sensible, more sound decisions when it comes to national defense than politicians, because politicians can easily be intimidated and bribed by a few lobby groups or activists for example, to engage in foreign wars. But it's much less likely for those people with ulterior motives to intimidate or bribe the entire public. In Switzerland, for example, because they have direct democracy, they have been able to maintain a position of neutrality, and they don't engage in foreign wars. So no Swiss lives has been lost in useless and destructive wars, and no Swiss money has been spent on destructive wars either. So national defense can definitely be decided by the public.
Okay.
Not by the politicians.
Yeah. I mean, I guess one issue in the UK very much now is one of voter apathy, which seems to be getting worse at the moment. The turnout level in the recent general election was certainly lower than in previous general elections. The turnout level in some local elections can be painfully low as even sort of 15%. Would you be confident that apathy wouldn't wouldn't be a problem under direct democracy?
Well, the reason that we have voting apathy is because British people feel that their vote wouldn't matter because politicians will do what they like anyways, regardless of their manifesto pledges, their initial sales pitches before they get into power under the existing system. And no party has ever managed to control national debt, government spending, reduce laws and regulations that stifle both individuals and the businesses. I think people are disappointed in the system. That's why they have developed this apathy. But under direct democracy, people will feel empowered to vote because they know their vote would matter and their vote will have a direct impact on the outcome of the government decision. Like in Brexit votes, the participation was higher, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest vote that we've ever had, very high levels of participation.
You see, a strong case for direct democracy then.
Yeah. But I guess if there was more sort of minutiae of decision making, and if participation levels got as low as 10%, do you think is that something that would matter? I mean, in some current systems of representational sort of parliamentary democracy, I'm thinking of Australia, voting is actually mandatory. Is or could that be something that would be part and parcel of direct democracy?
Well, if it's mandatory, and what's the penalty when citizens don't participate in voting?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if they do actually enact penalties in Australia or not.
Yeah, if then there is no penalty, then it's irrelevant whether it's mandatory or not. Well, direct democracy is to protect people's rights and interests, I think including their voting rights, their freedom, then I think it's better to leave it voluntary.
So no Chinese style social credit system to punish or reward voting.
Oh, I hope not.
And another point that I've read on this subject is that is a homogenous society a requirement for direct democracy? Because here in Britain, we know we've got a very diverse society. We've got a very wide range of ethnic and cultural backgrounds. And I've read concerns about the tyranny of the majority, resulting in sort of minority viewpoints being completely disregarded. Is that something that can be avoided, or maybe it's not a concern of yours?
Well, we can definitely we need to design the constitution carefully. Britain currently doesn't have a written constitution, and under direct democracy, we'll need one to ensure everyone's constitutional rights will be protected. And in case of when proposals put forward that could potentially impact our constitutional rights, supermajorities will be required.
So I suppose taking that further forward, so say if there was a proposal put forward to a vote to ban halal and kosher ritual slaughter, even with a supermajority of 80, if that was applied to a question like that, I don't think the total current population of Muslims and Jewish people is 20%. So would that be something that would be appropriate to go forward for a across the country vote?
Well, there is assumption under your statement there that is all non-Jews, non-Muslims would vote to ban their food, but I'm sure the majority of the public don't care how they eat their foods.
Okay, fair enough. Um, does a society need to be sufficiently educated and sufficiently advanced for direct democracy? And 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 is the UK sufficiently so?
Oh, well, define the advanced society. But I think a certain level of literacy rate is required. And the UK's literacy rate is fairly high. And also the UK has a history and a culture of democracy. And in addition to that, the UK also has a robust educational system that will ensure citizens will be sufficiently informed of matters concerning governance. And
Yeah, because I guess it's not only their kind of overall level of knowledge and information and education; it's around specific individual votes that they're set. Because again, thinking about the Brexit vote, the points were made that or questions were raised. Were people sufficiently informed and aware of the ins and outs, the pros and cons of leaving the EU? And even allegations were made, I think, probably on both sides, that the other side were lying, that were putting forward inaccurate facts, inaccurate statements. So I guess again that every single question, you need to make sure that the governance is around it.
well, yeah, as the British public gradually accept and get familiar with direct democracy, the quality will improve, and even in that circumstance, when misinformation was provided by both sides, the public has still come to a sensible decision, which is to leave the EU, to have more individual and national sovereignty. So we just need to trust the public, trust the British people, and trust that every individual has innate wisdom to make sensible decisions.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying about this. Just requires that trust in the public. But I guess there is still some risk that political activists could lead and dominate in the questions, and take people down ideological pathways that people might be quite ignorant about, and use propaganda and even conspiracies to lead people in the direction that they want them to be.
Yeah, but that's more likely to happen under representative democracy and less likely to happen under direct democracy, because a handful of a group of people with ulterior motives can manipulate the system more easily under representative democracy, because all they need to do is to either bribe or intimidate a selected few elected politicians. But it's much less likely for them to get away with bribing or intimidating the entire public.
No, that's a very fair point. Again, by those that kind of oppose direct democracy and referendums, they say referendums can be quite divisive. causing conflict and division and splitting the nation and even splitting the dinner table between family members. That concern, is that something we really need to worry about as a nation?
No, it's not that referendums that are divisive. It's that every question can divide people. I don't think any two people can agree on everything ever. Let's say in your family, do you and your spouse and your children, your parents, your siblings agree on every matter? No, we all have different opinions due to our unique experiences and understanding. And that's why we have the voting system to ensure that the majority people's rights and interests are protected. So it's not a referendum itself that's divisive. It's that we live in a world that it's like it's that everyone is unique and different.
Yeah, sure. So if we were in Britain to move the core system towards direct democracy, that's obviously a very, very major change, and it's changing something that's been in place for a very, very long time. Britain is often referred to, having the mother of all parliaments. Lots of nations have mirrored and copied the system that we still have. So how do you suggest that we might start that move?
Well, Britain, the British people have always been able to upgrade their outdated political systems throughout history without having to go through a major revolution. Of course, during the transit, there will be a steep learning curve, but we'll get there. And also we can start pilot projects to let people see that direct democracy has a lot more benefits than representative democracy, and that also allows the British public time to accept direct democracy.
So I think you mentioned to me earlier that you're currently implementing a pilot policy. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, so I have lived in several buildings in London, and they are all managed by management agents. And because the leaseholders are the breadwinners, we pay the service charge. And the management agents, like politicians, they are the middleman. They are there to manage our money and to provide services to us. But the result is usually service charges keep rising and the qualities of services keep falling. Like this building, Carrara Tower, 5 years old, we had a management agent, Savills, for 5 years. And I heard that some of our money, our service charges, have disappeared into thin air and never been accounted for. And the services provided had been horrible. For example, windows hadn't been cleaned for 3 years. And there were constant breakdowns of services and facilities as well. That's why I'm starting a residents association here, and which will represent all leaseholders' interests, and will implement direct democracy to and every decision concerning our finances and maintenances and the services will be voted by all leaseholders directly. And I'm also involved in another residents association in another building. And hopefully we'll see tangible benefits very soon, and then we'll scale it to the local government and eventually the national government.
Well, I guess there are thousands upon thousands of blocks and estates that are leaseholders, and I know I'm in one of them, and yeah, there is often a lot of dissatisfaction with the managing agents, and I guess that's a good place to start. And as you said, a lot of those issues also apply to kind of national government in terms of people making decisions on our behalf that we're not very happy with. Levels of apathy and disgruntledness with our current politicians and our current political parties now is a pretty worrying level. So I guess this is as good a time as any to start having this discussion. So maybe it's time to summarize. If you could just sort of summarize, tell us why you think we should move to direct democracy. Give us your 2-minute elevator pitch.
Oh, okay. Not long ago, a politician, a fairly honest one, had been trying to tell the public that government is not the solution. Government is the problem. And I think to hold governments accountable, the only solution is direct democracy, because under representative democracy, what we get is always that public spending, government size, taxation, and national debt, and the living costs keep rising, and the quality of public services keeps falling. To resolve the problem of the public, the only solution is direct democracy. We know every building has its life expectancy. Eventually, it's beyond repair, and it needs to be demolished and have a new one built underground. And the current representative system is the same. Is passing. It has passed its sell-by days. That's why no party, despite their promises, has ever been able to cut government spending, cut national debt, and reduce taxes that benefits citizens in the long term, and also reduce regulations that stifle individuals and societies. It's time to upgrade the outdated existing representative democracy system and have direct democracy. Thank you.
Thanks, Feiwu. So how can people learn more about your project?
People can find more information on my project on directdemocracyforhumanity.com. And please reach out and engage in discussions, and let's learn and grow together. Let's all evolve and also help humanity evolve to the next stage and direct democracy.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Feiwu.
Thank you, Steve.
And so until next time, cheerio.
Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Take care. Bye-bye.
If you have any suggestions of who you'd like me to talk to in my podcast, or if you'd like to join me yourself, please drop me a line below.